History teaches us to obey rules, but sometimes disobedience saves the world. Most people believe that history is shaped by loud moments, wars, leaders, explosions that shake the planet. But the truth is far more disturbing. Sometimes, the fate of humanity rests on a single quiet decision made in a silent room by a man whose name almost disappeared from history. In 1983, the Cold War had reached one of its most dangerous moments. The relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union was poisoned by distrust. Both sides believed the other was capable of launching a nuclear attack at any second. This fear shaped every military protocol. Nuclear doctrine was simple and brutal. Detect an attack and respond immediately. No hesitation, no debate, no second guesses. The idea was that delay meant annihilation. On the night of September 26, 1983, this responsibility fell on one man inside a Soviet early warning command center. His job was not to think creatively. His job was to obey. His name was Stanislav Petrov. Petrov was not a politician. He was not a general with power. He was a duty officer, trained to monitor a system designed to detect nuclear missile launches from the United States. Using satellites in space, that system was considered reliable, advanced, almost flawless, and that belief would nearly end the world. Shortly after midnight, the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across the room. The computer displayed a message that froze everyone in place. Nuclear launch detected from the United States. At first, it was one missile, then another, then another. The system reported 5 incoming nuclear missiles heading towards Soviet territory. According to protocol, this was not a warning. It was confirmation. Petrov knew exactly what he was supposed to do. He was required to report the attack immediately to his superiors. From there, the information would reach the highest levels of Soviet leadership within seconds. Retaliation would follow. There was no room for interpretation in the manuals. The system had spoken, and the system was never supposed to be questioned. The psychological pressure was immense. Petrov later described the feeling as sitting on a hot frying pan. His heart was racing. His hands were shaking. The room was silent except for the alarms and the weight of the moment. If the attack was real and he failed to report it, millions of people would die, and he would be blamed. If the attack was false and he reported it, he could start a nuclear war by mistake. There was no safe option, only consequences. What stopped Petrov was not heroism. It was doubt. The system showed only 5 missiles. Not hundreds, not thousands. A nuclear strategy. This made no sense. A real first strike would be massive, designed to overwhelm defenses and guarantee destruction. Petrov trusted something the system did not have. Context. He asked himself why the United States would launch such a limited attack. Why risk global retaliation with only a handful of missiles? Why not strike with full force? These questions were not part of his training. In fact, thinking like this went directly against his orders. Still, Petrov made a decision that no manual prepared him for. He reported the alert as a false alarm. He chose to wait. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an eternity. Every second carried the weight of human civilization. If nuclear explosions appeared on radar, it would mean he had made the worst mistake in history. None came. Slowly, the truth emerged. The satellite system had been fooled. A rare alignment of sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds had mimicked the heat signature of missile launches. Light had almost been mistaken for fire. If Petrov had followed protocol, the Soviet Union would have launched a massive nuclear retaliation. The United States would respond. Europe would be devastated within hours. Nuclear winter would follow, collapsing agriculture and ecosystems worldwide. Billions would not die immediately from explosions, but slowly, from hunger, radiation, and societal collapse. And all of this would have started because of a reflection of sunlight. Despite preventing global catastrophe, Petrov was not celebrated. The incident was classified. He was criticized for not following procedure. The system itself was flawed. And acknowledging his decision would mean admitting that the technology was unreliable. Petrov carried the psychological burden alone. Stress followed him for years. He never considered himself a hero. He once said he was simply doing his job, even though his job technically required the opposite. For decades, his story remained unknown to the public. No statues, no medals, no textbooks. The world moved on, unaware of how close it had come to ending. Stanislav Petrov's case was not unique. During the Cold War, there were multiple incidents where false alarms nearly triggered nuclear war, computer bugs, training exercises mistaken for real attacks, aircraft crashes carrying nuclear weapons. Each time, humanity survived not because systems worked perfectly, but because someone hesitated. This raises an uncomfortable truth. The world is more fragile than we like to believe. We trust technology, we trust protocols, but technology is built by humans, and humans are flawed. Sometimes, the difference between total annihilation and a normal day is one person choosing to think independently. Petrov disobeyed orders, and because of that disobedience, you are alive. His story reminds us that history is not only shaped by leaders and wars, but by ordinary individuals facing impossible decisions in silence. So the next time you think your choices do not matter, remember this: once, the fate of the world depended on a man who chose not to press a button, and almost nobody knows his name. If you want more real stories like this, stories that sound like fiction, but are painfully real, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who enjoys deep curiosities. Because some stories are not just meant to entertain, they exist to remind us how close we have already been to the end.